Good day, everybody, from wherever you are, all over the world, all over Africa and Nigeria. My name is Nwadito Okuniru Azugo. Um, I am a public health parasitologist. Currently, I am a student at the Department of Animal and Environmental Parasitology, University of Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Nigeria. But before we continue, I'd like to know if how you all are. I'd like to know how you're feeling. So I would like you to please do a very short activity with me in the next 1 minute and go to www.menti.com as you can see on your screen. I don't know if you can clearly see it. You'll put in this code that I'm about to show you shortly. So the code is 49217072. Go to www.menti.com and put in the code 49217072. So there you can answer the question, how are you feeling about yourself today? And I will see your answers to know just how you're doing today. You can also put your answers in the chat. I will look at it as well. And I want to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking. Just in one word, how are you feeling today? Okay, I can see your answer. Somebody says they are feeling great. That's amazing. More answers coming in. Remember, the code is 49217072. Also, I'll check the chat box. Okay, someone said they feel great and pleasant. That's also amazing. Please keep your answers coming. Somebody says they feel awesome. That's very wonderful. Somebody say they feel jazzed. That's cool. I like that word, jazzed. That's very cool. Um, any more responses before we finally close the Menti for the day? Someone says they feel amazing with a heart emoji. That's awesome. Thank you very much. We'll take a few more responses, about two more responses, and we'll end it here. Okay. Somebody says happy and a little stressed. Someone says great. Somebody says they feel great, and that's amazing. I love the emojis that are coming in. So thank you all so much for participating. Unfortunately, I'll have to end it here for the meantime so that we can get back to our conversation. It's amazing to hear from every single one of you this morning, this beautiful day, to know how you're doing and where your head is at. It's always very important to affirm your feelings at every point in time. So, for me, I am so happy to be here to talk to you about confidence, especially because I am sharing this space with so many amazing women and gentlemen, of course. We like to call them our he for she. So, to be here to talk to you all as a big sister and talk to you about confidence. I find it awesome that I get to share the stage with Dr. Bakare and Dr. Amina. So thank you again for putting me on. Today, I would like to talk to you about confidence. I'm an Igbo girl, and earlier this year, I learned about a proverb that quite sums up what confidence means. The proverb says, "Ejina maka mgbagbu lala ọgụ," and it loosely translates to do not lose the battle because you are afraid of getting shot. To sum it up, the proverb is trying to talk to us about fear. And most times, what stops us from being confident, from taking charge of our lives, is fear. But we need to learn to do things even with our fear. Fear is a normal expression, is a normal emotion. You should actually feel afraid to take on some tasks, take on some responsibilities, do some things. You should be afraid to write that novel that you've been thinking about writing for so long, or to speak in public. Even I, as I'm talking to you, presenting this to you, there is a form of fear, there's a form of anxiety. How would you receive me? What will it look like? What would my presentation look like? Would it be engaging? You are meant to feel that fear, but that fear isn't supposed to stop you. You don't lose the battle or give up entirely just because you feel afraid. No, you do it even with that fear. And that is what confidence is all about. Doing it afraid. You don't have to feel ready to start. You just have to start. But before we can talk about confidence, we have to talk about self-esteem. And once more, I'd like us to do a little bit of a practice session again. if you're close to a mirror, you're in your room, you're in your house, even if you're not close to a mirror, you can use your phone screen. I want you to, for a brief moment, look at yourself in the mirror and tell me, what do you see? What does your reflection look like to you? Do you see a bright, beautiful young girl who has her future ahead of her? Or do you see a shy girl who has just not figured out how to get out of her shell? Do you pick out the issues, the flaws in your body? Into your skin and you're thinking, oh, I'm not as light skinned as I. Instead of seeing just what you're capable of doing, you're seeing flaws. Or do you look at yourself in the mirror and you're wondering, what is my purpose, self? It's almost as if you're having an out of body experience, like you're looking at yourself through the lens of somebody else, not through your lens. And you're wondering, what is the point of my being in this space? Am I just here acting a movie? Am I in a sort of a movie? Is this a stimulation? Whatever it is that you are feeling, it is important to know that how you look at yourself, how you perceive yourself, is how you build confidence. And that is what self-esteem is all about. Self-esteem is how you see and how you value yourself. And it is reinforced by your inner voice, the inner voice that asks you questions like, am I enough? The inner voice that asks you questions like, am I beautiful? Am I intelligent enough? Do I have what it takes? Am I going to ever be that great woman that I admire? Am I ever going to do those things that I think I want to do? Am I ever going to, be known for just being awesome and amazing? Or is this just going to be the end of who I am? What does my future look like? So your confidence, which of course is reflected through your self-esteem, is reinforced by how you talk to yourself, what you say to yourself, the kind of things you accept, the kind of, words you accept into who you are and how you project yourself. And it is also built by influence over time through our experiences, through the words around us, through the environment around us. That is why it is important to understand your environment. It is important to sieve out the words you assimilate. It's important to learn from your experiences, but do not become your experiences. Um, in the Igbo culture, there is this form of prayer that our ancestors used to say. And in their prayer, they will call on the four market days. After calling on God, they will talk to the four market days. They'll call on Eke, Ori, Afo, and Onko. These are the four market days. And the belief system behind this is that they are calling on the past, the future, and the present, believing that everybody, whether you've been born, you're late, or you are present in this lifetime, you were born on any of these four market. By calling on those four market days, they are praying over your future, they are praying over your past, they are praying on your present. And that is what influence sort of can be, the influence of the environments we have around us. It is important for us to know that our existence is not just by chance. Our existence is because there have been prayers that have been said for us to be present in this lifetime. Even the Bible says, I knew you before you were formed. I knew you before you were born. I stitched you in your mother's womb. This is because every person dreams about their future. Some of us, even at this stage, begin to pray for the children we will have. Some of us who have children are already praying for our grandchildren. We need to have that faith in ourselves because that is the point of self-confidence and self-esteem. The point of esteem is that no matter what experiences you have or you will still have, you have to remain steadfast in your belief of who you are. You have to remain steadfast in your faith in who you are. You have to sieve out the positive and the negative and choose how to rise from your environment. Now, we can now delve into what confidence is and talk about confidence. I'd like anybody at all in just the next 2 seconds. So fastest finger. Can anyone tell me what they think confidence is? Can anyone define confidence for me? Okay, I can see some messages. Basically being bold. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, for lack of time, we'll continue. Yes, I believe that confidence is being bold. It is also a belief in your ability to do something. It could be that you want to run a marathon and you know that you run out of breath very easily, but you still try. And when you get tired, you just get tired, but you still try to do it because you think you can do it. It could be cooking for the first time. I remember the first time I made a pot of soup myself, I was about 13, 14. It could be cooking for the first time without guidance, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to try this on my own. If it's a mess, it's a mess, but at least I tried. It is a belief, an unwavering faith in your ability to do something. And confidence is something that is like a seed. When you plant a seed, you have to continue to tend to that seed. You have to water it, weed around it occasionally, make sure it gets enough sunlight, it continues to grow, and it's one day grow into a tree. And even when it grows into a tree, you don't stop there. You prune it whenever it overgrows. You make sure it is in the right location so that it will have the right sunlight, it will have the right amount of rain without being flooded. You watch it, you tend to it to know when even the back of your seed that has grown into a tree, even the back of it is flaking and it's having some, infections. You treat it, you prune it, you continue to work on it. And that's what confidence is about. It grows with practice and experience. The confidence you're going to have at this stage of your life that you're a teenager is not the same when you get into your 20s. It is not even the same when you get into your 30s. It is still not the same when you get into your 40s. We hear often about the phrase, the confidence of a grown woman. You've grown, you've had different experiences. The shy girl has turned into a blossoming woman. The blossoming woman has turned into a full-fledged woman. That full-fledged woman has become a mother. That mother is killing it in her career. So you're growing, and as you grow and as you experience, your confidence grows, especially in that particular thing that you want to be confident in. When you continue to pay attention to it, it continues to grow. So you can be confident in one area of your life and insecure in another area of your life. You can be the most beautiful girl in your class, for instance, but you're not academically bright. Or you can be good in all the art subjects, but then you find it difficult to deal with the science subjects. For instance, I was so horrible at mathematics. No matter how good I was in biology or chemistry or even literature, I was very horrible at mathematics. And I'll tell you the story about that along the line. But the point I'm trying to say is, make is this, that confidence is not something that happens by magic. It's something that is a process. It takes faith, not just faith in God, but faith in yourself. It takes practice, it takes hard work, it takes putting in effort, consistency. You begin to excel. On the activities, I would like us to play a little game of spot the difference. We have character A and character B. And there is something obviously different in the stance and the way they look. One person is feeling confident, another person is a little bit much more confident, up to a point that it's becoming a bit arrogant. So I want us to realize that there is a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence says, I can learn, but arrogance says, I know everything. But you don't. Confidence respects others, but arrogance has a way of looking down on others. Confidence is a quiet strength, but arrogance is a loud superiority that oftentimes amounts to nothing because we know that empty vessels make the most noise. The point is, with confidence, you are challenged to do more, but with arrogance, you feel like you know enough not to try. So we have to be careful to be confident and not arrogant. Now, by the end of this session, I would like us to discuss this. But when someone says, I am proud of myself, is that confidence or is that arrogance? Let's take note of that. The ways we can build our confidence. We can build our confidence by speaking positively. Words can either make or break you. And what people say can become your inner voice. We don't want that to happen. You have to learn how to sift. Somebody can say to you, you're not looking fine. Maybe because you have a face full of acne. You're not looking fine. Look at your face. But you have to remember to tell yourself that you're beautiful in your own way and you're growing. So you're learning to be patient with your body and with yourself. Again, we have to learn to filter out the noise. As this stage of your life, you shouldn't be too immersed into the social media. So keep the phone away and filter out the things that are necessary in your life. You need to stop spending too much time on social media because you begin to imbibe attitudes and thought processes that you shouldn't. You should instead focus on how not to compare yourself or how do you that is just one of the problems of social media. It begins to make you to compare yourself. But at this moment, you are building yourself. You're not going to be those big celebrities you look up to if you continue to just look up to them without doing the work. So keep the phone aside and put in the work. That is where you should be putting your energy and your efforts in. Now, I know that dealing with comparison is actually very difficult. It's easy to say you shouldn't compare yourself with others, but at the same time, it is difficult not to compare yourself with others, especially at this stage. But everybody has a different journey. The path you're taking may not be the path A is taking. The path your Ada is taking may not be the path Amina is taking. So we all have to be aware that our journeys and our lives are different. The people you went through primary school with are not the same you're going through secondary school with. And they will still not be the same people you will meet in your university years or even as life goes on. Somehow the paths might cross, you might meet one or two people along the way, but your paths are different. Somebody else may become something else and you become something else. So focus on learning who you are and your own journey. Your growth is important, but you cannot grow if you don't put on effort. And effort is what measures your progress. No matter how little, you need to put in the work. If it's making a timetable to focus on that particular area that you're finding difficult in the class, and spending time to look at it over and over again until you get it right, and so on and so forth. If it's the way you speak, practice any opportunity in school that you have to speak, take it on, let it be a challenge to yourself, and then practice over and over again in the mirror until you get it right. You will still feel those talk jitters, you will still feel that fear, that anxiety, but remember to do it even though you are afraid. Again, as part of your journey, failure is necessary. It is a part of the process. You cannot even become a confident young girl, a confident young woman, without having to face different parts of failure. Failure is part of experiences. That's the experience you would gain at every stage of your life. At this stage of your life, it could be a failed test. It could be that you didn't get through for JAMB, for instance. You have to spend another year at home because you didn't get through for JAMB. I was saying I would tell you a story, my story, but I don't think we have that kind of time again. But at one point in school, in my university days for that matter, I kept on failing mathematics up until I finally got to my final year. I kept on failing mathematics. So it could affect the way you feel about yourself. Rejections, mistakes, but you do not slide down because you've been hit. Just because it does not mean you have failed completely in life. Just because you were rejected for a particular opportunity does not mean that you'll be rejected in life. Just because you made a mistake does not mean that the rest of your life has to be defined by that mistake. Failure teaches, and with failure, you learn to build strength. The only time you actually completely fail is when you stop trying. So no matter how many times you fail, you get back up. I could use a number of people's stories to tell you about dealing with failure and to see how they made failure a part of their success story. But I thought about it, and within this period, from the 7th of April to the 4th of July, an African country called Rwanda is celebrating their liberation story. And anybody that has heard about this country, you may not have, and I'll tell you a bit about it, will know that this country had a horrible past. A past filled with bloodshed and failure. A past filled with loss and division. And this tiny country, as people were expecting, because this happened at the late 20th century, and things like this should not be happening. But more than 1 million people, in fact, 1 million and 74,000 people, 1 million and 74,000 people were killed in 100 days because the country was divided, because their systems were collapsed. And after liberation came, everybody was looking at how this small nation that nobody knew about was going to build themselves back up. For some nations, it will take years. They will still be struggling even at this point in time. But we all know that right now, Rwanda is one of the leading countries in Africa. And that is because they chose to do something with their failure. They chose to do what we now know as squibuka. They chose to remember why they failed in the first place, because they were divided among themselves. They chose to reunite, put in the effort, put in the work, revalue their system, rebuild their system, invest in themselves, protect their unity, and empower one another. When we talk about governments, we talk about governments in the sense that it's a government, a whole group of people, but it is one person, each person doing the work. So we have to understand that for an entire nation to change, everybody in the nation had to learn from their failure and change. If a nation can do this, how much more you? Finally, we have to remember that you do not use because of the gunshot to run away from the battle. Do it afraid. Do it old. Do it young. Do it broke. Try, speak up, apply yourself, and continue to show up. Do the work. Educate yourself, put in the work, show consistency, show up for yourself daily. Believe in God and believe in yourself. Always say this to yourself. I am not my mistakes. I will. Let's check in one more time. But you can just put it in the chat box to know. I want to know how you're feeling about yourself at the moment. Now